What if tomorrow we woke up and found that SETI had received a signal from an alien race not too far away? And plans began to form, and we began to prepare for who or what we would meet. What if you were a part of this planning committee, and you had a say in who and what we sent to make first contact? What would your choices be, and how do they inform the world about your values and your faith? And how, when the time came, would you answer the question every alien race is burning to know? What is Unitarian Universalism? Why is it important to you? I buried a time capsule when I was 10. My elementary school had buried one the year before, and I had become obsessed with the idea of time passing, of changing and remembering. So my friend and I, finally bored from building forts in the wood that summer, decided to build our own capsule. We wrote letters to our future selves, placed them in Ziploc baggies, of course, chose our favorite but not too favorite trinkets, pictures, and even cut locks of our hair, and placing everything into a shoebox, wrapped it in 4 or 5 trash bags, we headed for my backyard, finding a quiet and nondescript place. Under a tree in the brush, we dug what we thought was a fairly deep hole and placed our box inside, covering it carefully. We made a vow to open it in 15 years when we were 25 years old. Being children, we naively assumed our parents would remain in our childhood homes forever. And so when 15 years came and went, my family had long since moved, and my friend and I had lost touch. The capsule remains unopened. A snapshot of 2 particular children in a particular time and place, now a mystery for someone else to discover. That hot summer day, we picked out items in a rather willy-nilly fashion. Whatever was closest to us and flew into our mind was good enough to include. But I wonder what my time capsule would look like today. I wonder what each of your time capsules would include. Pictures of loved ones, favorite poems, a cherished article of clothing or jewelry, a dried flower or herb, perhaps maybe even a chalice. Whatever you would choose now, I'm certain would have greater depth and take more thorough vetting than its choices at 10 years old. We may tell ourselves time capsules are for future academic purposes, or maybe even just for fun, but I think there's something more to it. I think we wish to be seen, to leave some trace of our existence on this earth that lasts far beyond our skin and bones. We wish for others to see what we find worthy of sharing, the things that make a life, our life, worth living. There are time capsules buried all over this earth, some small and innocuous like mine, and others immense in both size and importance, the global seed vault, for instance. And there are even time capsules that transcend space and time, like the ones we've sent into space. But more on that later. Our book group recently read a wonderful novel called The Sparrow. In it, we meet an agnostic Jesuit priest, Father Emilio Sandoz, who is among the first humans to be informed of an intercepted alien signal in the year 2019. As a revered linguist, he and his group of multi-talented friends are invited to be the first to travel to make contact with the new alien race. Emilio sees the possibility of divine inspiration in his affiliation with these people, a right time, right place, right people sort of thing that strikes him as too kismet to be random. The decision makers in the Society of Jesus agree, and off they go exploring, with rather tragic consequences. You can imagine the rich conversation that flows from a religious group reading this book together, but rereading it, I began to wonder, perhaps like other readers, how different this might be should it happen in reality. After all, scientists have changed their thinking in regards to possible alien life, shifting from if we ever make contact to when we make contact. When it comes to UFOs and extraterrestrial life forms, I've most resonated with Ellie's father from Contact. When someone asks me if I believe aliens exist, I feel like the only appropriate answer is, Well, gee, I don't know, Sparks, but if it's just us, I'd say that's an awful waste of space. Contact does seem rather inevitable. And after reading The Sparrow, it leads one to wonder what kind of impact an alien contact would have not only on our personal belief systems, but our global institutions. In particular, how would proof of aliens impact organized religions? Would they have heave a dying breath or evolve with the new information? In 2014, NASA awarded $1.1 million to the Center for Theological Inquiry, an ecumenical research institute in New Jersey, to study the societal implications of astrobiology. As expected, the Freedom from Religion Foundation was outraged. They stated, "Science should not concern itself with how its progress will impact faith-based beliefs." And while I agree with this statement, the discovery of extraterrestrials would raise a series of questions that would exceed the boundaries of science. For example, when we ask, what is life? Are we asking a scientific question or a theological one? Questions about life's origins and its future are complicated and must be explored holistically across disciplines. And that includes the way we respond to the discovery of aliens. Our best guess is that most religions will adapt as they have before, especially when we consider that there is reference to life beyond this planet in each of the Abrahamic traditions. The Psalms, sacred to both Jews and Christians, claim that God has given names to all the stars. According to the Talmud, God spends his nights flying throughout 18,000 worlds. And Islam insists that all things in the heavens and on earth are Allah's, as the Quran says, implying that his rule extends well beyond one tiny planet. Though I think the scriptural literalists would have an awfully difficult time accepting we may not be the jewel of God's eye after all. We're Unitarian Universalists because we have no formal creed and find wisdom in, but no allegiance to, each holy text. Finding out there are little green people living on another planet would hardly be a shock to our system. In fact, in my research, I came across at least one book written by a UU minister on the subject of aliens and religion, of course. I think the only change we might see at the larger UUA level is simply proposing a vote to update the new language of prophetic people to prophetic beings. But once life on another planet has been established, the work of making contact would be the next task. Would we send a human? And if so, who might be chosen to go on such a mission? What might the participants bring with them to explain humanity, the earth, and all that we hold sacred and central? In 1977, NASA placed an ambitious message aboard Voyager 1 and 2, a kind of time capsule intended to communicate a story of our world to extraterrestrials. The Voyager message is carried by a phonograph record, a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc called the Gold Record, containing sounds and images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth. The contents of the record were selected by NASA by a committee chaired by none other than the Dr. Carl Sagan and his associates. They assembled 115 images in a variety of natural sounds, such as those made by surf, wind, thunder, birds, whales, and other animals. To this, they added musical selections from each culture and eras and spoken greetings from Earth people in 55 languages, and printed messages from President Carter and UN Secretary General Waldheim. Sounds fairly impressive and well thought out if you ask me, but I think we mere plebeians could do better in a 20-minute sermon than Dr. Carl Sagan and his associates could do in a year, right? I mean, what's so hard about this? When considering who should go, I think there are obvious choices that we universally would believe to be appropriate, right? Practically speaking, a linguist, a physician, an astronautical engineer, a botanist, and an anthropologist maybe. But what about including an artist? Perhaps a photographer to document the historic occasion. And what of a clergy person or a theologian, someone to reflect deeply on the existential implications of such a meeting and to write about it poetically rather than technically? Would we find a need for their presence on the ship as well? Who else am I missing? Any takers?
A politician.
A politician. You know, I think contemplating a first contact is a type of spiritual practice, one that asks you to go inward, consider deeply, and then make decisions. We can ask then, what do our choices reveal about ourselves? If you made a roster up of participants on such a mission, who would you include and why? Would you include a musician or a poet? Or would you fill the extra space with military strategists and tacticians? I believe your answer to this question reflects how you view the world and the values you hold most deeply. If you chose the artist and the poets, you might be most like Carl Sagan, a contact optimist, as he's been called, believing that any aliens that might be able to travel between the stars would be so advanced that they would be beyond all of this business of aggression and war and so forth. Meaning we would have nothing to worry about and everything to celebrate. Or would you, like Stephen Hawking, believe in the Fermi paradox, that technological civilizations tend to destroy themselves rather quickly, making a bet that if there's an intelligent alien species still alive, they're likely aggressive, and our best defense is a good offense? There's no wrong answer, of course, only a matter of opinion. But if you answered that question instantly, would your decisions change if I asked you to make them based on the foundation of your faith? If forced to generalize, and I like to do that, I do think we UUs have a tendency to be more optimistic about this world, sometimes to a fault. Some critics have argued that we may occasionally forsake realism for optimism. If you think about it, though, this makes sense. As universalists we have a faith that if there's a God, she is all-loving, unwilling to damn a single human to the fiery pits of some imaginary hell. As Unitarians, we have faith that humanity can save itself if only we want to, that we are smart enough, kind enough, compassionate enough to work our problems out. We have relied on optimism balanced by realism since our inception. So if Unitarian Universalists were responsible for assembling the team to meet the aliens, I think it's fair to say our team would lean more towards Sagan's optimism. So we have our squad picked out. What of our cargo? Let's assume all the essentials, the globby water packets, the toilet paper, the Mickey Band-Aids, and dehydrated ice cream are all handled. What items would we choose to represent us as a species? Sagan used symbolism on his golden records, but perhaps if we are delivering these in person, so to speak, we can provide something tactile. Unlike your time capsule, I imagine these items would need to present more than just a photograph of a specific time, place, and person, but rather provide a historical lens of our entire experience of life on Earth. It would be impossible to summarize the thoughts of all UUs, but I think we might suggest the following. Our faith values scientific, technological, and theological evolution. So bringing along historical and current representations of our advances would be a thoughtful choice. What about Darwin's On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection? Knowing that obviously our spacecraft would be a perfect example of our most advanced technology. We could even throw in a smattering of our holy books over the centuries. Another of our UU values is finding beauty in diversity. So similar to Sagan's audio tracks displaying our various languages, what about a video of diverse human faces from around the world? Greeting the alien beings in our native languages. This could showcase the richness of human form and the variety of languages present on our one small planet. And as UUs, we're quick to recognize our interconnectivity, acknowledging both the frailty and the strength in the web of life. So what if we brought a tooth of a rhino, extracted post-natural death, of course, and the wings of a butterfly, a way to showcase both the power and the fragility of life on Earth? How about some music? We UUs love some music, and we enjoy celebrating the beauty in our lives. I like Sagan's idea of the sounds of nature, but we have the technology to add more without creating added weight to our spaceship, so why not include an audio file of a concerto, pop, hip-hop, folk, rock, opera, and punk, and so on. Give those aliens the full flavor of our talents and tastes. We could include other artwork, a book on human anatomy, samples of earth and water, a tree sapling, and enough digital photos and videos to fill a library. And while I mentioned before how optimistic UUs can be, I think it's imperative we tell the truth of our situation here on Earth as well, including not just the beauty of our world, but also the tragedy. Recently, Lucy Hawking, daughter of Stephen Hawking, invited children in Arizona to craft a short message to an extraterrestrial intelligent life form. The winner was selected, and the prize was sending a message containing 144 characters based on the winning entry into space via a moon bounce. The kids were asked, how might we communicate if we made contact with an alien civilization? The winning essay was written by Benjamin Lee, a 7th grader from Pardes Jewish Day School in Phoenix. In his letter, he wrote, "Dear aliens, please help us save our world. Not from you, from ourselves. We are destroying our planet and need help from more technologically advanced beings. Our planet is polluted, many nations are at war, there is civil unrest, and our economy is in turmoil. Perhaps you can save our world. We're sure that you are friendly beings, as you have traveled so far to see us. Please come live among us and share your wisdom with us. We really need it. We UUs know our Earth is in trouble, and like Benjamin, we are not above asking for help. So our baggage is packed, and our team is assembled, and they've made contact. They've presented these items, and the aliens realize the answer to their ultimate question of what is a Unitarian Universalist. Those bug-eyed, noodly appendaged aliens would say, you believe in the goodness and potential of humanity, the beauty of nature, and the sacredness of your place within it. That peace is possible and worth working towards. No matter how different people are, you believe that discovery and curiosity and questioning are good things, that change can be beneficial, and that the earth is your responsibility, and you are humble enough to admit you don't always have the answers. Yes, these summarize a Unitarian Universalist faith. I can see why it's so important to you now. It would be a powerful exchange in my mind. I can see it. And all that would be left to do is pray to a God, many gods, no gods, the universe, that we don't get eaten. Amen.